I'm Paul Edwards, author of the Mourner's Woods books. Welcome to Why Monster Lost. This time we're going to look at why Dracula lost when he fought the Frankenstein monster in 1975 in the Frankenstein comic book published by Marvel Comics. And this was in issues 8 and 9, two of the best issues that they ever put out of this comic. Let's take a look at why Dracula lost. The battle between the Frankenstein monster and Dracula goes through two issues of the Frankenstein monster comic book, starting with issue number 8. So, and I love this cover. What has happened in previous issues is that in 19th century Transylvania, the Frankenstein monster has made friends with a group of gypsies, and unfortunately, he was tricked by a vampire named Margarita, who was one of Dracula's brides. The Frankenstein monster was tricked into smashing open Dracula's coffin and setting him free. So that's where our story picks up. So Dracula rises. Here's Margarita, pleased with herself that she has tricked the Frankenstein monster into bringing Dracula out. Dracula's gloating, and his first thing, of course, that he wants to do when he wakes up is to drink some blood. So he attacks the Frankenstein monster, thinking he's going to get monster blood. Well, he's not. It's not going to be that easy. The Frankenstein monster is stronger, and Dracula's taken aback by how strong the monster is. In this first round, you can see that the Frankenstein monster is almost ready to kill Dracula when Margarita interferes and interrupts the fight. Margarita's granddaughter, Carmen, is a pretty young gypsy girl who's made friends with the Frankenstein monster. She shows up, gives the Frankenstein monster pointers on how to kill a vampire. The Frankenstein monster is a fast learner and kills the vampire bride, Margarita, with a wooden stake. So this is establishing that the Frankenstein monster knows at least one way to kill a vampire. Frankenstein's monster and his friend, Carmen, go back to the gypsy camp and find to their horror that the Transylvanian villagers, in their panicked mob mentality, have killed the gypsies because they thought the gypsies were responsible for the deaths caused by Margarita. So now Frankenstein's monster is outraged that they've killed all of the gypsies except for his one friend, Carmen. And so he wants to go seek revenge on the townspeople. Meanwhile, Count Dracula is looking for a victim to feed on. He goes to attack this young Transylvanian maiden, but she's wearing a cross, so he can't. So he turns into a bat and flies into the forest, and who does he find? That's right, Carmen, the Frankenstein monster's friend, the young gypsy girl. And it doesn't end well for Carmen. Back in the village, we see that the Frankenstein monster is on a rampage, trying to get revenge on the villagers for their crimes. He makes short work of the first crop of villagers, but there's a lot of them. And eventually, they stun him long enough to tie him up, and they're getting ready to burn him at the stake. And that's the cliffhanger ending for this issue. Next issue, Dracula Unleashed. Now we're going to get into the battle in issue number 9. Yes, monster, it was Dracula who has slain the girl who befriended you, and so one must die, and one will die. So the Frankenstein monster is where we last left him, trapped in the flames in the village square. Meanwhile, Count Dracula makes another kill, and the scream is heard in the village square, and the Frankenstein monster, hearing somebody screaming under Dracula's attack, feels the urge to do something good for mankind and go and destroy Dracula. The villagers, of course, can't do it. They try to destroy Dracula. They can't. So the Frankenstein monster feels obliged to do it for them. The villagers try to stop the monster. Of course, they can't. And they say among themselves, maybe the Frankenstein monster wasn't as bad as we thought. If he's going to kill Dracula for us. Dracula, in the meanwhile, takes yet another victim. So in the cave where Dracula has been hiding out, the Frankenstein monster goes in to confront him and finds Carmen, his gypsy girl friend. But guess what? Carmen has been turned into a vampire. And the Frankenstein monster has to put her down. The person that he cared most about, he has to destroy. And he is not happy. Now Dracula shows up to an extremely ticked off Frankenstein monster, who was not the least bit happy that the one person around here who showed him any kindness was victimized by Dracula, and he, the Frankenstein monster, had to put her down. So he is enraged, and he goes after Dracula. And yes, the dawn is approaching, but Dracula is convinced that he has time to kill the Frankenstein monster. And he plans to not only kill him, but put the bite on him and convert him into a vampire and make him his slave. Things look bad for Frankenstein. Dracula is very cocky that he's going to win. Monster, this is your end. And the Frankenstein monster feels a hatred for Dracula that he's only ever felt for one other man, his creator. And with a burst of rage, he throws Dracula off of him, hurls him out of the cave into the rising sunshine. And while Dracula is scrambling to get out of the sunshine, the Frankenstein monster picks up 2 of the wooden pieces, makes a cross to further immobilize Dracula. And the sunlight is turning Dracula into dust once again. And the Frankenstein monster takes one of the pieces of his cross and uses it to stake Dracula. And the battle is over, and the Frankenstein monster has prevailed. So why did the Frankenstein monster win? Well, the Frankenstein monster was stronger than Dracula, and the Frankenstein monster knew Dracula's weaknesses. And what the Frankenstein monster really had going for him, though, was his rage. He was very emotionally driven. The Frankenstein monster was on the point, back at the cliffhanger, he was on the point of giving up. The villagers had him. He was going to burn. He felt that maybe he should burn because he was an abomination. But once someone he cared about was attacked, that motivated him, because he does have a heart, unlike Dracula, and does have some good emotions. And when he found that someone he loved had been wronged, that was it. He was done. I love the fact that the Frankenstein monster killed Dracula in 3 different ways at once. By hurling him into the sunshine, confronting him with the cross, and staking him. He was so mad at Dracula, and he just let loose on him. These were a great couple of issues of the Frankenstein monster comic. They're actually my 2 favorite issues of the Frankenstein monster comic, although there were other good ones. So that's why Frankenstein won, and that's why Dracula lost. Because Frankenstein, number 1, was motivated by emotion. And number 2, he understood Dracula's weaknesses. Dracula did not have any understanding of the Frankenstein monster's strengths or weaknesses. He was completely surprised when he saw how strong the Frankenstein monster was, and he never really did catch up. Listen, if you enjoy classic monsters and vintage horror, check out my book series, the Mourner's Woods books. They're available on Amazon.com. My stories are all set in a haunted forest in the American Northwest, Mourner's Woods. In each book, a completely new cast of characters ventures into Mourner's Woods and are confronted with ghosts, monsters, and other things that go bump in the night. My books, again, are the Mourner's Woods books. They're available on Amazon.com. My name, again, is Paul Edwards. Thank you for spending some time looking through the great Marvel comics of the 1970s to see why Dracula lost. I'll see you in Mourner's Woods.